So during the pair, share, square, I heard some really good information around the characteristics and the content, but I wasn't hearing as much as I would have liked to hear around the considerations tab. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about those things that fall into the timing, modality, audience, and environment. It's important to understand that when and how often we give students feedback is really something that we need to think about in terms of the individual student and the group. The when piece might be as simple as knowing that if you've reached the end of a lesson and you realize that there's something very important the students need to understand as a class, um, but it's 5 minutes before recess, that the timing for that and the when, it's not the time that they're going to receive that feedback. And so you want to set the stage for that, maybe do some kind of evidence gathering tool, an exit ticket before they go out. And basically, by doing that, you're setting the table that they know that they're going to be having some feedback when they come back from recess regarding that specific tool. The how often piece is more individualized. You're thinking about what kind of student needs to hear how often from you, and really they're going to be determining that for you. They're going to be letting you know when they're ready to work hard and when maybe they need those prompts or that reassurance and the feedback from you. So that timing piece is really important. The modality piece is really understanding the student, understanding what kind of learner they are, whether they're going to be best with oral, written, maybe digital. Maybe they're the kind of student that might best learn using activities on the computer. And by doing that practice, they are self-assessing to some extent and are able to take that feedback and make a difference. The other thing that I just mentioned in some ways is the audience. How big the audience is and how well they receive that feedback during that is important. Some students thrive on that one-on-one attention. Some students are better in thinking and listening in that large group and allowing the others' responses to really feed their thinking. And so we need to understand that the audience is really important in the way we deliver and how we deliver. Finally, I think we can go back to Carol Dweck's research and the video that we just heard in terms of that growth mindset. How well have we created a culture of learning in our classroom that really respects students and where they are in their learning journey and allowing them to feel safe in terms of where they are in comparison to the class, in comparison to the criteria, knowing that they're on their own journey that is co-equal to the class's journey. So with that in mind, we're really moving on to thinking about maybe some non-examples or some things that we need to be really aware of. When we start talking about speed bumps, I'm going to give you a quick story about my own experience. I was working with some colleagues in a master's program with Antioch, New England, and we were working on critical skills in the classroom and the kinds of skills in terms of collaboration and communication. And we were working with another school district, and so there were two sets of teachers from different communities. And one of the things an outcome was that we were supposed to be writing a article for a local newspaper to talk about the work we were doing. And I was thrilled about this opportunity, and as a group we were working on it. And the other district did not have a friendly relationship necessarily with their community or in some ways with the local newspaper. And I was a little tone deaf to that, and I was getting feedback from the group from that other school that they didn't think that it was a great idea for them to produce this article and then publish it in the local newspaper. I just, for some reason, I was so excited about the opportunity to talk about good teachers doing good work that I wasn't hearing what they had to say. Well, on the ride home with my colleagues from my own school, I got an earful from two of my mentors, and they let me know that I was tone deaf, and it was really very presumptuous of me to be expecting them to publish an article that might have actually made their situation in their community worse. And that my excitement about our work was really good, but I wasn't hearing the feedback that I was being given. And so I think that goes along with really the and understanding that the tone or how we go about giving the feedback to the people who are we're working with can be very, very important. So some other speed bumps I think you might think about is just thinking about that tone. What is it and how, when you're working with a student, they're hearing you? Are you open? Are you gentle? Are you making sure that you are giving them what they need at that moment? You're making sure that you're not comparing them to other students, but to their own work. That being vague can be really difficult for students. They need to hear from you that you're clear and give them a recipe for action in the future. I'm guilty of giving overcomplicated feedback. In trying to be clear, I might actually give too much detail, and the message can get lost. Reminding ourselves that we want to be focused on the work and focused on what they can do, and not focus on the student. Because if that feedback is focused on the student, or they feel it's focused on them as a person, that's going to cause a shutdown. And then finally, making sure that we don't mix grades and feedback, or mix evaluation and feedback. Because as soon as we do that, we know, according to our friend Dylan Williams, that it is not going to work. They are not going to receive that feedback once they receive the grade, or once they perceive that there's an evaluation connected to it. So I really like you to think about these two sections in terms of your own classroom, and take a minute to think about what you might focus on between now and the next time we meet. Choose one or two to really think about and practice in your classroom, and then in the future we can talk about how successful that was.